Today, as bombs are falling in Iran, as US President Donald Trump confirms that military strikes on nuclear facilities happened over the weekend, as the world inches closer to full blown conflict in the Middle East, Canada's Parliament just packed up and went on vacation. See you bye, gone fishing. Let that sink in. This, I wish, was satire, but it's not. This is Canada in 2025, a country with record inflation, skyrocketing foreign debt, and a prime minister so comfortable in his privilege and delusion that he thought now was a good time for a 12-week break. Listen to that again. This is your government. This is Mark Carney's Canada. And today, we're calling all of it out, loud and clear. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker. Another big one here for you today. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps grow the channel. The reality is that this is really no time for vacation if I'm the government of Canada. They called this the crisis of a lifetime, and that's Mark Carney's phrase. That's not my phrase. And yet, on June 20th, last Friday, Parliament rose for the summer. Gone. See you bye. Gone fishing. 12 weeks off. Do you get 12 weeks? No accountability, no emergency sessions, just see you in September while the world unravels. And you might say, Chris, isn't that normal for the government to just take off in the summer? No, not this year, not this time, because this isn't a normal summer. This isn't about barbecues and cottage season. This is about war, tariffs, global economic upheaval, and food insecurity, energy instability, and Canada's parliament, already one of the least productive in the G7 this year, after being prorogued, is now gone silent again. They didn't even pass a budget before they left. That's right. So Mark Carney has spent over $70 billion in emergency allocations under special approval. And now he's off to NATO with no fiscal roadmap, no accountability, and no plan to floor any parliament debate because he can't. And meanwhile, in Iran, everything's falling apart. If we talk about what's actually going on here, as of today, U.S. forces launched targeted strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. And this isn't just another skirmish. This is potentially the beginning of a massive escalation in the Middle East, one that could pull NATO allies, global markets, and countless lives into another prolonged destabilizing conflict. And President Trump, who the Liberal Party, Mark Carney himself, spent months painting as a tariff tyrant, a threat to democracy, and public enemy number one, has now apparently become Mark Carney's quiet little phone buddy. Carney claims he spoke with Trump just yesterday about de-escalation, bestie. Oh, really? Okay, so let me get this straight. After months of sanctimony and moral grandstanding, after painting Trump as a dictator, suddenly now he's a reasonable negotiating partner. Now we're cozying on up to the Donald to be behind closed doors while our media pretends, oh, nothing's really happening. Either this crisis of a lifetime was absolutely fake, or this government is completely unprepared to deal with what it would be a real crisis of a lifetime. And that's typical liberal, though. Other nations, by the way, they're not taking off like ours is. You might think surely Canada's not alone in this level of incompetence, correct? Well, wrong again, because let's take a look around the globe. In the United States, yes, Congress does take a summer vacation, but they've stayed in session. The Senate and House are active currently, fielding war powers, resolutions, tracking aid, and debating military involvement. In Saint Martin, a small, very small Caribbean nation, they postponed their entire summer recess due to domestic and international instability. You heard that right. A small island nation chose duty over downtime. France's National Assembly has canceled previous recess during domestic crises like these, and the UK Parliament is still sitting until late July to cover this. Germany, same deal. When real crises hit, real governments actually respond. So Canada? Well, we shut the doors and tell citizens to stay tuned in the fall. I'll be on the lake. This is not leadership. It's cowardice. And here's the thing. We've got the NATO meetings this week as well. Now you've got Mark Carney jetting off to NATO, and the media is already calling it a success before he even got there. How is this even? He hasn't even landed yet. The ink isn't dry on the NATO agenda yet. The Iran strikes are barely 24 hours old, and the media has already handed Mark Carney a gold star. Like, at least contain yourselves a little bit. The Toronto Star ran an editorial calling him Canada's voice of reason on the world stage. CTV is preparing a puff piece on Canadian diplomacy in dangerous times. CBC silent on the fact that Parliament just went on vacation during a global war scare. And here's a wild one. What in the Sam hell is Diana Fox Carney doing attending this? Mark Carney's wife, who holds no elected office and no government title, is on the NATO guest list? Why? And if she isn't, why is she flying with him? Is she Canada's first lady now? Is this a business trip for the whole family? I mean, we don't have first ladies per se. Even Melania Trump, who's defined as a first lady, well, she's not going to NATO because the US respects protocol. There's no reason for her to take that trip on taxpayer dime. But Canada is acting like NATO is a photo op, not a defense summit. And everywhere he goes, the mainstream media follows and puffs him up before he's even spoken. Remember back in April, Mark Carney told Canadians that this was the most dangerous time in global politics since 1945? He said we needed unity. He said we needed sacrifice. What is he sacrificing exactly? He said it was a moment that would define our generation. Then, on June 20th, he sent Parliament home. No debate. What kind of leader calls a five-alarm fire and then leaves the station? This whole crisis language, it's a giant mask to make him look good, a convenient excuse to pass emergency spending, bypass extended debate, and appear presidential on the global stage, while avoiding the hard decisions right here at home, while Canadians suffer. But Canadians are starting to see through it. You can't cry emergency and then suddenly disappear. You can't call Trump a threat and then call him a partner. You can't say democracy is fragile and then shutter the House of Commons during wartime escalation. Like, really? This is an absolute fraud. And it's unraveling fast in front of our own eyes. And you voted for this, liberals. So, what do we do in this scenario? Well, the number one thing is we've got to start demanding that Parliament reconvene. This is not a time for Parliament to be off. We demand that the Prime Minister address the nation not from a NATO podium or a press gaggle in Brussels, but from the floor of our own House of Commons. We demand a debate on our role in the Iran escalation, a vote on NATO positioning, and yes, a damn frickin' budget. We are not a colony. We are not a backbench in global affairs, and we are sure as hell not governed by a CEO who has gone on vacation. Mark Carney needs to lead or step aside. This is a turning point in Canada. If Canadians don't raise their voices now, we are giving permanent permission for our government to skip the hard work and focus only on the optics. And if this is the crisis of a lifetime, like he defines, then there is no excuse for inaction. No vacation, no photo ops, no Diana Carney on the tarmac. We need leadership, and we need it now. Canada, what is going on here? Because this week, as the NATO jets soar and the Middle East trembles, as the media spins and the press pretends, and as Parliament lies empty, remember one thing. The true crisis is not what's happening overseas. It's what's not happening here at home. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker, and if you're as outraged as I am, subscribe, share, comment, and demand answers, even here, because this country deserves better than this. Thanks for watching.